This is absolutely huge. Declan Rice today has been confirmed as an Arsenal player. Statements from West Ham as well coming out saying that he's obviously leaving the club. In this video, I'm going to break down what it means for Arsenal this season, and of course Declan Rice himself. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Would really appreciate it. This transfer is a bit strange. It does feel a little bit weird because West Ham have come out and said that he's leaving. We all know it's definitely happening now. Arsenal haven't quite been able to announce yet. And West Ham, I feel, have been backed into a corner of announcing that Declan Rice is leaving. Declan Rice has sort of agreed personal terms with Arsenal. And it feels very much that Arsenal said, well, here's £100 million, but in our terms. Looks like it's going to be 3 times £33.3 million with add-ons on top of that. And you feel that West Ham, in the situation they were in with Declan Rice, had to kind of accept it. It felt like there was a lot of momentum in the football world that this was just a done deal. And it's been for the last, week, 10 days, not really confirmed. I think West Ham, on some level, didn't get a clean break. I don't think they got the best end of the deal, in my opinion. They wanted a little bit more. And I feel that Arsenal just put the highest bid out there. Obviously, City dropped out as well. And they've kind of had to confirm it just to kind of move things along a little bit. I don't feel that West Ham are massively happy with how it happened. That's just my gauge. And I feel like they've only got a few weeks now to replace him. You know, they were linked to Calvin Phillips. I'm sure they couldn't get that kind of deal done without knowing about Declan Rice. And I feel there's a little bit of dragged feet. That's just my perception of the transfer. We have to get into what is one of the most expensive transfers in the history of football. The second most expensive transfer in the history of Premier League football. And of course, he's the most expensive Englishman ever. Declan Rice will offer so much to Arsenal. Of course he will. He's versatile. He can play anywhere, sort of in that midfield position. He can play a bit more forward. He can play obviously deep in midfield. Maybe even as a centre-back if needed. Certainly positionally in transition when Arsenal don't have the ball, of course. It's a massive statement. Arsenal last season, you do feel, lacked a little bit of leadership, a little bit of power, presence, and I think Declan Rice has got all of that in abundance. I think West Ham fans, if you're watching, they probably have to say more than me that he's probably top 5 players in the history of their football club. Silverware doesn't come around a lot for West Ham, especially European silverware, and what he did in Prague was heroic in terms of at least getting them there. I don't think he had the best final ever, but we've seen this consistently with Declan Rice. Whatever you say about him technically, I've definitely questioned his ability going forward. I don't think he's as well-rounded as Jude Bellingham. That's just my opinion. But he's kind of, you look back at his career now, he's only 24, 25, that kind of age. He's got England to a Euros final, our first final since '66. He was fantastic in that Euros. He was really impressive in Qatar as well. He's always fit. He's always available. He's always a positive character. Even when I'm watching West Ham games as a neutral, he's the one shining light. You feel they might have been relegated without him. And they're a massive football club, and they've probably struggled in the transfer market in certain positions, and he's been the one constant for the last 4 or 5 years at West Ham. There's no question about it. Now, he has to go into Arsenal and elevate his game, in my opinion. For £105 million, or whatever it is, finally, he has to become more than what he is. I think he will, but the question mark for £105 million is, he has to go and make them win the Premier League. He does. And there'll be Arsenal fans saying, oh, City this, City that. Arsenal spent £200 million in the last 6 weeks. I don't think Havertz is a good signing. I think Timber is. I think Declan Rice will be. It's a mixture for me at the moment. But for £105 million, whatever you say, he has to go out and make a huge difference. It'll be down to Arteta to utilise him in the right way. But if he goes there and kind of just keeps it simple, doesn't take the burden of the kind of creative outflow of Arsenal, then I think I don't want him to become a passenger. And I'm not saying he will do that, but you do worry that Arsenal at points last season, when they dropped off at the back end of last season, they had a fantastic season, don't get me wrong. They had an unbelievable season. But when things went wrong, a few players went anonymous. I think the big one is Thomas Partey. It was a hard role, what he was doing, covering the whole of midfield almost by himself when Odegaard had pushed up. You know, Xhaka as well, sometimes a little bit stretched. And it would just be Partey. We saw it against West Ham. Obviously, it was Declan Rice that kind of got the ball from Partey when he tried to flick it over him. Closed him down from about 25 yards away. Kind of closed him down and won the ball with a really good bit of pressing. The moment for Arsenal will be at the business end of next season, if they can be 3, 4, 5 points clear of City, of Liverpool, of maybe Man United and Chelsea next season. Will Declan Rice have that characteristic to front the burden of expectation at Arsenal Football Club? There's a big question mark there because he's so young, because the level at Arsenal is so much higher than West Ham. Can he do it in the Champions League against some of these incredible midfields? I'm not sure about Arsenal's coefficient, but I've got a feeling they're going to have a couple of big teams in their group. So it's a massive move for him on that level. Arsenal, whatever you say about Declan Rice, I think it will work. I think you have to believe in a player's technical ability that he can improve and get better and better. He's fit. He's constantly fit. You feel that maybe Partey's injury issues always cost him a little bit, and Jorginho's probably at the wrong end of his career in terms of fitness, maybe, and a few other players in there as well. Declan Rice is always available. He's always going to show for the ball, and he's always going to drive Arsenal on. So I think that's one constant. I think it's everything around Arsenal Football Club next season. They have to get a winning mentality. They've started that with Declan Rice. Timber as well is of course a winner. I look at Kai Havertz, experience of winning the Champions League, of course, but I still question, for £200 million, have they improved massively? I still think Arsenal need an extra body up front. Again, when the chips were down, you do feel that they struggled a little bit, and I think Declan Rice is a massive player for them to get back to that level. So when the A level isn't there, their B level gets them 3 points 4 or 5 times in a row. And that's how you win the Premier League against Man City. Look at City last season. I think there were points we were a little bit flat. We fire it into Haaland. He scores a goal. Ilkay Gundogan scores a goal out of nowhere. Rodri. Declan Rice, the big question mark for £105 million has to be his goal scoring ability. He has got a good finish on him. I think sometimes he hits it a little bit soft. He's a little bit careful with his placement, and that can be to the detriment of power and actually trying to beat a keeper, especially from long range. He's got the technical ability to beat players. I think he's got the technical ability to score more goals. There's no question about it. Actually, even arriving late into the box is a massive factor for him as well. Can he drive in and kind of score the goals that an Ilkay Gundogan used to score for City? I think that's why City were interested in him. There's no question about it. He's got the legs. He's got the athleticism. He's a lean, lightweight kind of midfielder. Even though he's strong, you feel that he's got a lot of mobility in midfield. And I think Arsenal could use that massively. But the big question mark will be his goal scoring ability, because at the moment he could be a little bit. Is he a little bit side to side at the points? I'm not sure. He'll have to improve his forward sort of passing ability through the lines, in my opinion. And the big question will be goals, because I think Arsenal, if Jesus doesn't score, Arsenal have a shot next season of winning the league if Declan Rice scores 10, 15 goals in the league. I'm not saying if he will do that or not. I'm not entirely sure. But you have to look at it and think Declan Rice has to add goals to his game. He has to add goals to Arsenal for that money, in my opinion. Very keen to see what you think in the comments down below. It's a massive signing. Arsenal spent £200 million in the last few weeks. They mean business. Whether they can win the Premier League or not, it's a big question mark. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you soon.